City of Adelaide Council meeting on Tuesday, 10 December 2024. The Lord Mayor is in the chair. This council meeting will be streamed live and recorded for publishing to the internet. Please note that an audio and visual recording is being taken of this meeting. This means that your presence at and any contribution you make to the meeting may be collected, used, disclosed or published publicly by the Council, including transferring outside Australia.
Good evening. The Council acknowledges that we're meeting on the traditional country of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains and pays respects to elders past and present. We recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationships with the land. We acknowledge that they are of continuing importance to the Kaurna people living today. And we also extend that respect to other Aboriginal language groups and other First Nations people who may be with us. The Council also acknowledges the vision of Colonel William Light in determining the site for Adelaide and the design of the city with its 6 squares and surrounding belt of continuous parklands, which is recognised on the National Heritage List as one of the greatest examples of Australia's planning heritage. We pray for wisdom, courage, empathy, understanding and guidance in the decisions that we make, while seeking and respecting the opinions of others. May we in this meeting speak honestly, listen attentively, think clearly, and decide wisely for the good governance of the City of Adelaide and the well-being of those we serve. I now ask all those present to stand in silence in memory of those who gave their lives in defence of the country at sea, on land and in the air. We have apologies tonight from Councillor Abrahimzadeh and Councillor Ho. I also understand that Councillor Lee will be slightly late but should be here in a few minutes. Councillor Kouros is on leave. Thank you. Could I ask someone move confirmation of the minutes? Deputy Lord Mayor moved, seconded by Councillor Noon. A comment, all those in favour? Those against, that's carried. Thank you, members. Are there any conflicts of interest that we should declare? No, we'll move on to the next item. We have 2 deputations, one as published, Mr McLean, and secondly Mr Borges, who's already spoken to us but has an issue he wants to raise again tonight. So could I ask Mr Tom McLean to come forward? If you'd come up to the metal bar, we'll let you in. And we have the stand and the speaker. We have 3 minutes with which to address us. Please deliver your address.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Tom McLean. I'm the owner of Jack and Jill's Bar and Restaurant on Pirie Street. I'm here this evening to advocate on behalf of parklet owners, some of whom are here tonight, for equality across parklet associated fees introduced by Council in July 2023. We are asking Council to remove the fee that attributes to the loss of car park revenue as part of the fee structure, as well as reviewing the additional parklet fee. This is not a matter of opposing fees, but advocating for a fairer system. One that recognises the significant investment businesses make in enhancing Adelaide's public spaces. Businesses are using their own resources to transform underutilised spaces into leafy, colourful, vibrant areas that attract visitors and contribute to the city's liveliness. As you may know, our parklets have been an innovative addition to our venues over the past 2 years, some much more, 11 years even. Not only have they provided our customers with extra outdoor seating, but they have also created a welcoming space that contributes to the atmosphere of our CBD community. We've all seen how much they've been enjoyed by local residents, office workers and visitors to our amazing city. Efforts to date to negotiate fairer fees for our parklets have failed. To paint you a picture, all of our parklets are unique. To use mine as an example, I have 8 tables and 32 chairs along the footpath, which is outdoor dining. It costs me $1,500 a year. I have 5 tables and 25 stools in my parklet, which is costing me, well, being invoiced, $24,000 a year. Put simply, that's $47 per seat for outdoor dining compared to $960 per seat for my parklet. How can this be when both spaces have the one use, outdoor dining? Several council employees dealing directly with us have called the parklet fees absurd and been blown away when hearing how much they are. We find it appalling that council are directly passing on costs associated with the loss of car parking and fines to small businesses who are trying, without the help of local and state government, to generate revenue and bring office workers and punters back to the CBD. Busier venues create more jobs, and in your favour, added payroll tax and GST. Our parklet designs and construction were paid out of our own pockets. By using our own resources to build parklets, we are saving the City of Adelaide hundreds of thousands of dollars. You might ask how. I've said on multiple occasions we're not opposed to fees. However, if a fee for our parklet is to be passed on, context should be considered. Part of this issue is the disparity between other areas of the CBD constructed for similar use. For example, proposal of the Hutt Street precinct, which we're all in favour of. I think it's 12.5 mil. Inevitably, you're going to lose some car parks. You're going to extend the footpath for outdoor dining and rejuvenate the space. 6 years ago, just across the road outside Weymouth Street. Thank you. I think it was about 6 years ago across the road on Weymouth Street, you lost permanent car parks, extended the footpath between George's and Press restaurants. They just pay outdoor dining. Hutt Street, I'm guessing, will be paying outdoor dining, but yet parklet owners are forced to pay for that construction while also an additional fee. On top of this, we're fully supportive of these projects, as I said, but when put together side by side with our parklets, it doesn't add up. On top of this, council are promoting that new trees be planted along Wyatt Street, where car parks have been removed to do so. This is supported by local businesses. I, for one, love it. However, it is unfair for that revenue to simply be foregone when you're passing on these fees to parklet owners. Meanwhile, myself and other parklet owners have been told by council that we are not permitted to have a tree near our parklet to protect punters from the sun. Council have written at length about greening the city, and this is how you respond. It doesn't add up. We have support from many parklet owners and members of the general public, customers and council members here today, and would like to escalate that this is a matter of importance and ask that council show their support to not only small businesses, but also the livelihood of the Adelaide CBD. By doing so, we believe this will encourage other businesses to do the same. We would like all parklet fees and loss of car parking revenue abolished. While we'll stop short in asking for the return of costs already spent to construct our parklets, we do ask that some sort of recourse be applied to those parklet owners that have already entered a payment plan. We believe there is a large amount of goodwill in what we have achieved, and we're thankful for the opportunity to have such structures. Both parklets and outdoor dining areas utilise public space, yet the significant variance between these two fees places an undue burden on businesses that have invested heavily in creating green, inviting spaces for patrons and the broader community. We're asking for an immediate stop to current fee structure and for fairer fees to be introduced, aligning parklet fees with outdoor dining fees. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming to speak to us. Thank you. We next have Mr. Borges. Thank you. We heard from you last week, but you forgot to tell us something. And
this will be brief, believe me.
Mr. Borges is going to talk about Park 21 West.
Thank you for another opportunity to represent AXARA and comments on this council's initiative to improve and enhance Park 21 West in the South Parklands. My name is Mark Borges and I am the President of AXARA. As a genuine community association, we simply wish to reiterate our commitment to help to deliver a facility that is functional, safe serves the community and the public, and is sympathetic and respectful to the area of the parklands that we have called home for over 40 years. We're encouraged by the support shown for the project at last week's committee meeting and trust there will be no further delay to add to the 8-year period that has elapsed since Council originally initiated the project. We look forward to working closely with the Council and administration on the detailed design and long-term lease with some urgency so that practical outcome can finally be achieved. Thank you again for your support.
I think we're in furious agreement. Thank you. On to the next item on the agenda, which are the petitions. We have none. Item 11 then is Caterpillar, which includes...
Lord Mayor, point of order, I think. Since we have interest in the gallery, may I suggest that we perhaps move Councillor Noon's motion to the next item?
And 21 West?
Yes, if you could
That is next, basically.
And first of all, get Councillor Noon's motion, which is 18.2. Can you scroll down to that? So you'll see a fairly lengthy response from the administration. Councillor Noon, would you like to move your motion? Can we just ask if we have a seconder for the amended motion? Councillor or Deputy Lord Mayor, yes.
My motion was between point 2 to point 5, but there was governance issues because I have actually put this. I have actually put a resolution or a motion forward before to do with a review of outdoor dining fees, and so I've been told that we need to revoke this. But what I don't want councillors to be confused on is that this is not to do with removing outdoor dining fees or parklet fees. Thank you, Councillor Davis. This is to do with this. The first part of this motion is very much to do with removing the actual fee that we're charging these restaurants. We're charging 6 restaurants on the loss of car park revenue to council. So, point 2 of this motion is...
Excuse me, can we just explain what point 1 means? Because I can't understand point 1. Can you just explain what it all means? Again, sorry.
So motion 1, what I believe, because as I said, this was not my point, this was administration, is to do with it's to do with the 23-24 budget, and that we had agreed, in the business plan and budget, we had agreed to the fees and charges. However, I had put up at the time a review of the actual fees and charges in relation to parklets and outdoor dining fees. So this, what we're saying here, that this, if we actually go back to the business plan and budget, the review of fees and charges, and listed on page 11 of Council's 24-25 fees and charges schedule, that in this part, this motion is only dealing with the loss of ticket machine revenue to do with parklets.
I'm sorry, I think it's quite difficult to understand what this all means because it's referring back to things that are highlighted. Can I ask if the administration understands this?
They were the ones that put it forward.
Can someone explain it, because I can't even begin to follow it?
Through the presiding member, my understanding of the varied motion is that it's seeking to revoke the current fee structure for parklets, specifically the provision for the 50% discount on loss of ticket machine revenue.
Retrospectively.
That's our reading of the intent.
Yes. I think it's quite difficult to understand the ticket machine revenue applicable to be priced on application. It's a very contorted...
It is. And I've had a couple of councillors ask me about this, but because it wasn't my point, it was administration's, I cannot explain it as well as what they can. And I was unaware of the majority of that particular change until just before council meeting tonight, or the published papers when it was brought to my attention.
I just want to flag that I've seconded it for the sake of debate. I actually do support the intent of Councillor Noon's motion, but reading it, I actually think I'll only personally be supporting Part 2 and Part 4, and I'll be in the hands of administration with regards to timing around Part 5. So I will, as a seconder, also be asking that we take it in parts, I think, if that's okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry to be so difficult. Can you just explain Part 2 relates to which year?
Part 2 relates to the abolishment
of 24-25, retrospectively?
Yes. Well,
okay. And 3 is retrospective? Okay.
Can I speak to it?
Well, yes.
Okay, point 2 of this motion is to therefore abolish the additional fees restaurants are currently charged to compensate for car park revenue loss when they establish a parklet. This fee is inconsistent with our strategic vision for a vibrant, business-friendly and people-focused city of Adelaide. It penalises businesses that are contributing to our shared goals of investing in infrastructure that makes our city more lively, accessible and appealing. First, let me clarify what this motion is not about. It is not about removing outdoor dining fees for the leasing fees of parklets. Those fees are contributions to the use of public space. Instead, this motion seeks to eliminate an additional layer of financial burden on 6 restaurants in the city, an unjust fee charged to make up for car park revenue loss resulting from their efforts to innovate and enhance the public realm. Supporting businesses is core to our strategy. Our strategic visitation and maximise opportunities, and then more under the key indicators: increased foot traffic in key and emerging precincts, increasing people to visit the city. How does charging this additional fee align with that vision? It doesn't. Instead, it discourages businesses from investing in creative solutions like parklets, spaces that bring people together, encourage social interaction and enhance our city's appeal. Parklets is a benefit, not a burden. Businesses that invest in parklets are not taking something from the city, they are giving something to it. By creating vibrant, inviting spaces at their own expense, these establishments are directly contributing to a clean, green and dynamic city we all envision. Yes, these parklets may replace a car park or 2, but isn't that exactly what we've been advocating for in our city's master plans? We are proposing to remove car parks in areas like Hutt Street, Hindley Street, Light Square for revitalisation. Those decisions which forfeit revenue were framed as investments in a more sustainable, pedestrian-friendly future. Why should it be any different for small businesses contributing in a similar way? Another concern I'd like to raise is the possibility that this fee amounts to double dipping. When visitors are looking for car parks and they can't find car parks, they probably have to park their vehicle in a car park. And many of the car parks are U-parks. We own them. These U-Parks are our second highest source of revenue after rate collection. It's reasonable to question whether we're genuinely losing revenue or simply shifting it from on-street parking to U-Parks. Penalising businesses for this supposed loss feels both unfair and unnecessary. We need to send the right message to our business community. If we truly want to attract and retain businesses, we must create an environment where they feel supported, not penalised. Charging this additional fee sends the wrong message. It says that their investment in enhancing Adelaide's public spaces will be met with extra financial burdens rather than encouragement. Instead, let's acknowledge the value these businesses bring to the city. Let's demonstrate that we are true partners in their efforts to create a thriving, people-focused urban environment. Put our money where our mouth is. A fairer system through review is the third point of this motion, calls for a review of our outdoor dining and partlet fee structures. This isn't about opposing all fees. It's about ensuring, advocating for a fair, equitable system that recognises the unique contributions of businesses investing in public space infrastructure. Our review will help us ensure that our fee structures align with our broader goals and reflect the shared benefits these investments bring to the city. Thank you, Tom, for your deputation, and thank you for the other people in the room who are impacted by this unfair fee.
Thank you, Councillor.
A couple of questions, Lord Mayor. In regards to a potential review, is it administration's understanding that this will be completed in time for any potential adjustments that may be needed for the next business plan and budget?
I'll ask Mr Sedgman.
Through the presiding member, subject to the Arm 4 of this resolution being supported, we would certainly ensure that that review informed the development of the fees and charges schedule for 25-26.
Thank
Do
you.
you wish to speak?
No, I was over around speaking, but another question then, and through you, Lord Mayor, to the administration, does Part 5 align with that statement then, or is it surplus to requirements, so to speak?
Through the presiding member, that provides further clarity regarding a direction by council.
Is that enough? Councillor Martin, and then Councillor Seaman.
Yeah, look, thank you, Lord Mayor. Just a quick question. I am a bit confused. In respect of parklets, I wonder if the administration could advise how many fees there are. It is a parklet fee and a fee equivalent to 50% of lost revenue, quite separately to any construction costs associated with the parklet structure.
Mr Sedgman, through you.
That is correct, noting that by virtue of the resolutions of council in setting the current fee schedule, the parklet permit fee is a discounted rate, as is the loss of ticket machine revenue. Okay,
thank you. Lord Mayor, look, I'm not sure how this will fly, but I would like to propose an amendment to this motion, which I hope addresses the concerns of the councillor with whom I spoke earlier today. And all I would simply propose is that we lose 1, 2 and 3, and 4 becomes undertakes a comprehensive review of the current fee model for parklets. Sure.
That's a huge variation. That's completely out of the motion.
Well, Lord Mayor, it is not ultra vires. It may not be perfect.
I don't believe it's an amendment. It's just a matter of voting against the first 3 and retaining Part 4.
And I further propose that Part 1, which was Part 4 and now reads undertake a comprehensive review of the current fee model for outdoor parklets, and 2 becomes requests a report, which is actually the old 5, requests a report on the findings of this review to be presented to council to inform deliberations for the 25-26 business plan and budget.
Might I suggest that if we took it in parts and the first three were voted down, that you could support 4 and 5 as the new...
Well, I can't...
Isn't that the residue?
No, I can't support that because, I mean, the Speaker said this is not about outdoor dining fees, it's about parklets. And 4 says current fee model for outdoor dining. So...
That is an error, you're right.
So I can't support it as it is. I'm proposing that parklets, which is the subject of the proposal, and it says restaurant parklet
So
owners.
what I will do, Councillor, is accept an amendment that suggests for parklets and outdoor dining, because I think that... I take that as an amendment if Councillor Giles will second it, and then vote against the first 3.
Well,
You don't want to second it? Sorry.
Lord Mayor, can I foreshadow that I've also discussed an amendment with the mover, which is similar in nature, but if I could read the wording or discuss the wording with my colleague.
Well, could you incorporate it in Councillor Martin's then, so that we can move on?
I would hope it allows us to, Lord
Yes.
Mayor. I'll stand briefly.
Because this
I think
this has not been moved. We're still trying to get to a landing.
But if it's assistant resolution, as I... Yes, Lord Mayor. So my proposal would be to change point 4, which I believe may render part 5 redundant, but the new point 4 would read, refers the report listed at 14.5 of the administration report to a business plan and budget workshop for consideration reviewing the parklet fee structure for financial year 25-26.
That sounds as if it's a perfect resolution. You just dictate it.
I'm happy to provide a written copy. I've jotted it down, but it is in chicken scratch.
Councillor Martins wasn't seconded. Councillor Elliott's will be seconded by somebody else. Councillor Siebentritt has seconded it. So I think we have a landing on that.
So just for clarity of all members and the chair, it wouldn't change any of the preceding parts of the motion. It just provides a pathway for the report that already exists to be considered under the budget process coming before us.
Councillor Siebentritt.
Lord Mayor, can I just clarify, we've currently got in part 4 there, most of the wording struck out. Can I just clarify, Councillor, are you suggesting retaining the wording but adding at the bottom refers the report listed at 14.5? Just want to clarify what form we're now taking in this.
I'll seek administration advice of whether it changes the effect of my proposal, but I take it as it could include point A through D and not change substantive.
Point of order, Lord Mayor. May I suggest that we break meeting proceedings for 3 minutes, just as a process, so we can actually just sit down.
No, we're just going to get the words. We'll be fine,
Okay.
I think. We just take a little patience.
But that's a huge variation from what Councillor Noon already requested, which is a separate report. Because the 15.4 goes back 2 years to a previous report which recommended the parklet fee already be in place. What Councillor Noon is asking for is a review of what's happened over the last 2 years so that we can then figure out what we're going to do going forward, not to revert back to the old proposal. That's a huge variance from what Councillor Noon... I wouldn't be accepting that as a valid variation.
We could take this amendment, vote on it, and then vote on the rest of them in series. Okay, have we agreed on those words? Agreed?
Am I to understand, and I do take your point that we're voting in parts, am I to understand we're presented with a motion that abolishes parklet fees, reimburses parklet fees dating back to the previous financial year?
I understood that you wish to vote against that.
But that's in the motion, and the only variation is...
We'll have to take it in parts and you have to vote against it. It's a camel, I'm afraid.
It is,
Can
yes.
I just This is not about abolishing parklet fees. This is about abolishing the extra fee that restaurants are being charged for the loss of car parking. So there are restaurants that are being charged for outdoor dining fees,
Is Councillor Noon summing up?
fees, and then also the loss of car parking fees because they built their parklet.
Yes, I think we understand that, Councillor Noon.
Well, it doesn't sound.
I think we know it's only about parklet parking fees that the basis of this is. Can I suggest that we look at the amendment for Part 4 after we've resolved Parts 1 and 2 and 3? Would that be fair? So can we take it in parts? Would you like to sum up, Councillor Noon?
Colleagues.
I'm sorry, I think...
Wait, sorry,
I'm sorry, just as a procedural matter, I think that before
Isn't this a motion?
we should move Part 4. I apologise, I've just missed a step there. Could we move Part 4 as the amendment? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And I'm very sympathetic to the way this has played out, and it's a fantastic thing that businesses are able to express their feelings towards the approach that we've taken for fees and structures. And it's certainly a wonderful thing to see that businesses are looking out of their businesses onto the street and seeing much greater opportunities for on-street car parking than just a single car or one or two cars parked there at any one time. So I have proposed this amendment in order to use the material that has come before us before, allowing us to shape that decision out of that sympathy for the cause that I do have, but I will flag that I do not intend to support points 1 through 3. I think this is providing a sensible pathway for this matter to be resolved and to consider what the future of our parklet fees are for the next financial year.
Thank you. Councillor Davis, we should just...
I want to speak to the amendment and then I'll speak again to the substantive motion. Don't approve this variation. What Councillor Noon was asking for is a report on what the history of this is and how we got to the point of where it is. If you actually click through to the administration's report, which is what now this is going to be based on, there's little to no information that we're now going to have a workshop on. It's a complete different situation. So I think if we want to actually have an informed discussion of how the parking fees went from, some 10,000 to 24,000 in a year. That's what we want to try and figure out in terms of what our policy should be going forward, not the very, very small amount of information within the actual document that we're talking about here. So this doesn't work. Councillor Noon's original motion was the correct one, and that's what we should be considering. I don't mind if it goes back to a workshop, but it needs a new study and a new report from administration of how we got from there to there. Otherwise, you'll be basing your thinking on a report that was done, 2 years ago? And I think one of the links is dead, which I can't even access. So it says you can't even enter into it. So no, please don't vote against. Please vote against this motion and go back to the original and get a proper report so we can discuss it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Martin?
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor. Look, this is very confusing, and I have to say that the last speaker has left me even more confused. But nevertheless, I think I can see a sliver of light here. Having been on this council in 2021, when this measure was adopted, it was adopted as an initiative to assist small business, particularly hospitality, in circumstances where indoor dining was impossible. And so outdoor dining became a possibility, a means by which we could get people back to hospitality. And there were many restaurants, 18 I think the administration says, who thought that's a great idea. When those restaurants agreed to this initiative, they were all told by the administration, and it was the wish of council, we insisted. We told them, this is a temporary measure. This is related to COVID. This is to help you trade through this difficult period. Now, over that time, we've returned to a position where fees have been reimposed for services that are being provided by the city, one of which is parklets. Now, parklets are a great idea. They're a great means by which we can encourage people to partake in outdoor dining. But the simple consequence is that they have an impact on other neighbouring businesses.
A point of order, Lord Mayor.
Can you just sit down, Councillor Martin, while I listen to Councillor's point of order?
This amendment is about the change to put in, to get a report and have a workshop, not the substantive motion. So I'd ask Councillor Martin to speak to the amendment, not to the rest of it.
Well, Lord Mayor, perhaps the administration can explain to me and my colleague what is the motion before us. Is the first part still in there? Is the second part still in there? Is the third part still in there?
It's still there because we haven't voted against it yet.
That's all right. I'm sorry, my colleague is confused.
But we're actually only debating at the moment the amendment.
Sorry, I'd like to raise a point of
Thank
order.
you, Councillor. I'm
order.
agreeing with you. Can you just sit down?
Sorry, I'd like to raise a point of order.
No, I agree with you.
Thank you. I have a separate point of order.
Another point of order?
Yes. I just note that you allowed Councillor Martin to cast aspersions on me, and you've said nothing to reprimand him, and you've done nothing to ask Councillor Martin not to comment on other people. But you're very happy to pull me up when I do the exact same thing.
I thank you, Councillor. I didn't notice anyone criticising you, and I'm agreeing, Councillor, I'm agreeing with your point of order that we are debating part 4, and I just ask you.
I'm unaware of offending my colleague. Have I done so? I apologise, Lord Mayor. It's unintentional. What can I say?
Thank you for apologising.
Thank you. Now, Lord Mayor, I was providing the background, and I am suggesting to everybody that when there is a workshop, if there is to be a workshop on this subject, then that is the background. That is what we're reviewing. Not whether parklets are worth continuing with, not whether in fact they should be paying $30,000 or $40,000 or $50,000, but there was a precise reason around parklets and the fee structure. I will support a workshop, but I cannot envisage any circumstance in which we would provide to a very select number of businesses, now less than 10, a subsidy which is not only applied today, but which is backdated. And Lord Mayor, anything which is backdated, in my view, particularly when it comes to legislations, financial impositions such as charges, is or should be anathema for any elected body. Members, support a workshop if you will, but that is as much as I'm able to support.
So thank you, Councillor. So Councillor Stephen-Tritz seconded the motion, and then we'll go back to Councillor Elliott.
No, I wanted to speak to you as well.
Sorry, the amendment.
Sorry, not the amendment, the motion.
Sorry.
So I have a small question, Lord Mayor. I'm wondering whether we can have an undertaking for the administration to ensure that the report that's referenced here, which is listed at 14.5b, updated with as current information as is possible when it's presented to a workshop. We're just conscious
they give that undertaking.
That is a slightly older document. If we can have the latest data, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll preface this by saying I wish to provide some clarification about what the intention of this was. I'm not seeking a workshop. The intention was that we have already a schedule of workshops and presentations to discuss the budget, and I know on the 11th of March 2025 we have our workshop to discuss base budget, service charges, budget levers. I think that sounds like the most appropriate time for us to discuss this, and all I'm asking is that the report that has come before us before, in order to shape the decision about parklet fees, is presented to us again in order to be to have a fresh discussion about that for what this service charge means for 25-26. So 11th of March could be inserted in there if it needs to be specifically laid out that this is going to a workshop that is already part of the schedule of workshops that we have for the budget process.
Part 4 as amended.
Is very fair. A lot of businesses spend a lot of money to develop their parklets of their own accord, expecting a certain percentage of return, I suppose, and a certain cost when it was originally proposed. We have a business owner who's come to council who's seen their parklet fees go from $12,000 to $24,000 nearly overnight. And I think that if they knew the true cost of what it would be, they wouldn't have done it in the first place. I also think the argument around, there's so few operators that this deals with. I think the reason is because it's so unreasonable and it's such a high charge. Why would any business succumb themselves or submit themselves to $24,000 in fees to operate these parklets. The reason why we would grant a parklet in a particular point is so that we can activate a certain area if parking is not to such a degree or so necessary. In fact, Tom was saying before how, in terms of his business, he didn't mind the additional tree plantings in that area. It seems to me that his biggest issue is capacity. A similar issue I would suggest would be at another cafe near mine, or in my electorate, like Cafe Tropo, which has a position out front which could quite easily be turned into a parklet, and I think would benefit that business as well. But there's parking on Sturt Street, when I don't think there should be parking on Sturt Street. So some streets have parking and some don't. That means that there's a very big disparity in terms of this policy on whether you have ticketed parking out front of your shop or not, as to the cost and benefit of whether a parklet would be viable or not. To me, if we're going to give up a car park, whether it's charged or not charged, that should be a decision of council, what's in the best interest of our city. And in these circumstances, Tom's restaurant happened to have a ticketed car parking out the front of it. And there are other places, say in Hutt Street or on in front of, say, Penny's Universities, which didn't have that. So they don't have the same pressure on them. I also note that our cafes and restaurants are doing really badly here in South Australia. In speaking to them, they've said it's worse than COVID. And putting this additional duress on them for these types of fees, which are completely unexpected, and it's going to cost them a significant amount to go and remove their car parks, I think is unconscionable. I think we should backdate it, and I think we should pay them back the undue parklet fees that we've charged them. That's the only fair thing to do. I think pushing this off to a workshop in the future and giving no response to the current criticism from our ratepayers is a really bad approach by this council. And I really do think that we should vote for Councillor Noon's motion. We've had a 150% increase in the shutdown of cafes in South Australia year on year on year. In 2022, it was 22 closures, and a couple of years later in 24 was 55 closures. So I do believe that we should be doing everything we can to support it. I don't think this is an equitable system, and I think Carmel Noon's motion tonight fixes that equitable issue. And I think we should listen to our ratepayers rather than, I think, confuse the issue and attempt to confuse a very clear motion that was put forward by Councillor Noon.
Who seconded the motion?
Just
no, you didn't second.
No,
I apologise.
No, that's fine.
Spoken yet? Sorry.
Just very briefly speaking to this, Lord Mayor, I thank Councillor Noon for bringing this to our attention. My observation, though, is that we are roundly criticised in this chamber for when we bring forward motions that are out of sync with our budget process. And I appreciate what had been originally suggested at Part 4, which I think brings this back in, at Part 4 and Part 5 actually, that gives us the opportunity to bring it back in the budget process. We've now got an amendment here that continues to do that, and I think that's important. I'm looking at the process we adopt in general for everything that we do that relates to our budget, and it's important that we run back through the existing process. So for those reasons, I won't be supportive 1 through to 3, even though there are some important, notable arguments there. This does need to go back through our budget process.
Would you like to sum up?
Yeah,
and then we'll take it in parts.
I just want to actually appoint my own point of order, what Councillor Martin says. Outdoor dining fees, including parklet fees, commenced prior to COVID. In fact, in 2018, to support businesses, not because of COVID. We didn't even know COVID was happening at that point. And they were informed at the time that they may be reintroduced because it was going to be a completely different council who would make completely different council decisions. The amendment that we actually agreed to does not change my point too. Colleagues, I urge you to consider the broader implications of this fee. This is separate to parklet fees. This is these restaurants, 6 restaurants in our city, who are paying an extra fee and actually for loss of car parking for the council. It is unheard of. Removing it is not just ethical and a gesture of goodwill. It is a practical step towards building a more supportive, vibrant and attractive city. Businesses that invest in parklets are partners Don't we talk about that? Let's put our money where our mouth is. We talk about partnering with businesses in different sectors. Can't we see this as partnering and being able to actually say, okay, we will forfeit this fee to partner with you because you're revitalising this particular street. Business that invests in parklets are our partners in our mission to revitalise Adelaide. They deserve our support, not additional hurdles. Let's make the right choice and abolish this ridiculous, unnecessary fee. Let's signal to our business community that we are serious about working together to make Adelaide a city that's clean, green and buzzing with life. Put your money where your mouth is, councillors. This is ridiculous that we are charging these restaurants for this fee. And you're sitting there accepting this. I know some of you are. It's ridiculous. They're already paying a parklet fee. They're already paying outdoor dining fees. We're not talking about that. They're actually paying this additional ridiculous fee. So I urge you to consider
raise a point of order, Lord Mayor.
Yes, Councillor.
I just note that Councillor Noon criticised a number of councils. I think she's well entitled to. And then I had and then secondly, there was an interjection. I'm just finished my point of order.
Councillor, I agree with you. I think she's straying.
But I just noticed you didn't pick that up. And I also noticed that Councillor Martin interjected and you did nothing.
Councillor, thank you. I think the councillor is straying towards casting down the people's motives.
Well, I apologise if I did that because
Thank you for
it was not the
apologising.
intent.
Sorry, there was a second point of order. Councillor Martin interjected into Councillor Noon speaking and you didn't pick that up. For the record, I think there's nothing wrong with what you said.
Thank you. That's enough. Thank you. Sit down. Yes, you did. Thank you. I can only pick up what I can hear. I didn't hear anything.
Well, I heard it. Should we move? Did anybody else hear it? Because it seems like you pick up interjections from some...
Point of order, Lord Mayor, sorry. There's been a spurious flurry of points of order that have been constantly interrupting the flow of the meeting with no effect, but also through that process, aspersions have been cast at the chair on the application and use of the points of order and their rulings, including interruptions during the rulings.
Thank you, Councillor. My ruling is that we carry on with the meeting and try and get through this motion, otherwise we'll be here till midnight.
Sorry,
and I see no point in hidebounding the whole meeting by arguing about points of order. Let's get on and let Councillor Noon finish.
But sorry, I do have a point of order. Councillor Elliott said that there was no outcome to no avail. 3 of my points of order were sustained by you.
Councillor, we don't need to play games across the chamber. Please just sit down and let Councillor Noon finish.
I just want to finish up by saying that some of these restaurants have 3 fees. They're paying an outdoor dining fee, they're paying extra fee for their parklets, and then on top of that, they're paying a car park loss. If they wanted to be innovative and put parklets in front of their restaurant at their cost, they might have got a grant, they might have got some assistance if they were lucky, but at the end of the day, it was their expense. And at the end of the day, I actually think that this is not about the parklet fee, which we can workshop, or the out dining fee that we can workshop whenever, as per the amendment. This is about
Councillor, are we
that
seeking leave for an
unfair
extension?
fee that we're charging.
Okay.
Can I ask a legal question before we finish the item?
The matter is now closed. We've had the closing debates. So
I just want to
unless
ask,
it's a procedural motion,
I suppose so. I'm just concerned.
Is this a procedural motion?
Yeah, I'm just having a look at the report that was from the administration where it says the maximum, like the loss of ticket machine revenue, and on Perry Street it would say 11,000. Does it?
Point of order,
sorry,
Lord Mayor. The chair has
ex-
already ruled. Could you please ask the Speaker to
We are
resume
not
his
going
seat?
to re-debate and
No,
reopen
I'm not.
the debate.
I'm not debating. I'm just asking. Does it leave the
We're not going to have
council?
any questions, Councillor, because Councillor Noon has just signed up.
And it does it.
She
Does
has
it open
actually-
us up to? Can I please? Just sorry. I'm not disrupting. I'm just wondering if it does that. The fact that we've maintained that it's 11,000. Does that open us up to a legal action of estoppel?
I think that a legal question is one that's beyond the power of the meeting this evening, so I think if you have a question, we'll ask it another time. I think Councillor Noon has summed up, and she's done so quite adequately. We'll move through the parts of the motion and take them in order. I'll ask part 1 to be voted on now. Councillor Noon has moved them all. Part 1, all those in favour? Against? That is lost. A division has been called.
Members, a division has been called in relation to part 1 of the motion. Please stand in favour of the motion until your name has been called.
Councillor Noon.
Councillor Noon and Councillor Davis. Thank you. That's lost.
Part 2, that was lost. Part 2, all those in favour? Part 2 is to resolve immediately to remove the component of the parklet fee structure that charges restaurants for the loss of car parking revenue, acknowledging burden it places on businesses investing in the vibrancy of the city. Part 2, all those in favour? All those against? That's an equality of votes. I'll vote against. A division has been called.
Members, a division has been called in relation to part 2 of the motion.
Sorry, you were presiding vote, were you?
I had a casting vote.
Right, so you voted.
I voted, but I'm not taking part in the division till it's been called, because you all have the capacity to change your votes between the first vote and the division. A division has been called, so we'll go back and take it.
Please stand in favour of the motion for part 2 until your name has been called. Councillor Noon, Councillor Lee, Councillor Davis and Deputy Lord Mayor. That's another tie, Lord Mayor.
Your votes, and I vote against the motion. Part 3, all those in favour? Which is not valid now because it's ultra vires after part 2, I think. So part 3 has already been effectively lost. Part 4 and 5 could go together.
Point 4 makes 5 redundant.
Okay. Part 5 is now redundant and therefore ultra vires, so just part 4. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you, members.
Can I just clarify, there's no timeline now?
The timeline has been agreed. It will be before the end of the budget, so I think it will be okay. As a matter of equity, I think the Golden Wattle Park, Mr. August, should be... oh, sorry, part 4 on division. I didn't hear. I apologise. A division's been called on part 4.
Members, a division has been called in relation to part 4. Please stand in favour of the motion until your name has been called. Councillor Elliott, Councillor Giles, Councillor Lee, Councillor Siebentrip, Deputy Lord Mayor and Councillor Martin. Thank you.
That was carried, members, and it's just as well I have someone with acute hearing sitting next to me because I sometimes miss those calls. Would it be possible with the consent of the meeting to move 5.2 forward as well? On, item 13, part 2. Do I have consent of the meeting to move? I'm sorry? They've given consent? That's okay, that's good. Thank you, members. Could I ask Councillor Giles if you'd be happy to move item 2, the Golden Wattle Park?
I will be delighted to move this recommendation. As our speaker today pointed out, it's been a long time coming, and the discussion has been really positive at the committee meeting, and we now have a position where we can move ahead and develop this sporting facility, and I move it as printed. Seconded by Councillor Siebentrip.
Would you like to speak to it?
I would briefly, Lord Mayor. I wanted to first recognise the significant work of all the volunteers at XARA over many years. I understand it's 8 years to get us to this point, time that they of their own free will have committed to the upgrade of the building facilities in the parklands, and also recognise the work of our council team. I think this has previously been described potentially as being a compromise, and while on one hand it might be considered a compromise here in terms of the different requests of different stakeholders, it's also a really significant step forward. It's significant progress. So it's meeting the needs of a new generation of users, and it's also ensuring that we have fit-for-purpose facilities. I won't re-prosecute all the argument around this, but we recognise that this is opening up the facilities for a broader range of users into the future. And also, I'd note that the building is perhaps not as large as originally anticipated, which also reduces the impact on the area of park lanes being used. So ultimately, this is a good outcome in terms of council decision making. It's a good outcome for our community, and also, I believe, a good outcome for the next generation of parkland protectors.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and I do politely disagree with my colleague. There were two options presented to us at committee, option A and option B. We went with option B as is in the motion, and option A provided fit-for-purpose facilities that were 88 square metres smaller than what we've gone with in option B. So we've gone with the option that would have worked and added an extra 88 square metres onto it. So I would argue this is not a compromise. A compromise would be actually the slightly smaller option. And what we're doing by supporting this is actually giving carte blanche going forward to buildings that are larger than what is needed for the purpose. So, look, I've made it very clear in the past, I actually don't support an increase in the footprint. However, I acknowledge with option A, which is the minimal standard of size, was already an increase of about 120 metres. So that was me compromising and coming over halfway, one might say, and to the table. But then this is, in fact, an extra 88 square metres. So we're talking 208 square metres more than what the current building size is. So this isn't a compromise. I reject that argument, and I would be voting against this. I don't think I've got the support in the chamber to vote this down. I would like to, if there is support to vote this down and come back with option A, I would definitely support that option as the genuine compromise. Thank you.
Councillor Giles, do you wish to sum up on this one, or shall we just take the vote? All those in favour? All those against?
Division.
Division has been called.
Members, a division has been called in relation to recommendation 2 for item 5.2. Please stand in favour of the motion until your name has been called. Councillor Noon, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Giles, Councillor Lee, Councillor Davis, Councillor Siebentrop and Councillor Martin. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move now to item 11 on the agenda. We'll go back to orderly meeting procedure, if we may. Item 11 is just noting Caterpillar's advice. Was that moved by DLM? Seconded by Councillor Elliott. All those in favour? Oh, sorry, nearly got there. Nearly got there. I wasn't fast enough, was I?
No, you weren't. Look, Lord Mayor, and this stems largely from the inquiries of constituents. At 7.1, we're being asked to note that the authority has noted the proposed approaches to activating the North Adelaide Railway Station short-term and long, but has anyone given approval for anything to happen there?
No, it's an intention without an actual move. So I don't know if I can pass on to Mr. Haridis. That's my understanding. It's an intention of a short-term activation of some sort until a long-term tenant can be found. So there's been no decision, and the Caterpillar has no power.
And council doesn't either?
Well, council has the power. I need to ask the administration.
Through the presiding member, this is a report for noting, and you're noting advice. And the advice is that Caterpillar has received a report on the tenancy status. In doing so, it noted concerns expressed in a deputation at Caterpillar. There is no decision by council contemplated by the noting of this report. That is something that would come to a future meeting.
Great, I understand it now. And just one final question. At 6.2, the CEO has approval to enter into a negotiation for the archery club, which is exempt from the expression of interest process, based on 13.2, according to the minutes of the licensing and leasing policy, 13.1 rather, but 13.1 refers to vacant land and buildings. This one's not vacant. Why is that?
My understanding was that this was a derelict building that's been waiting to be rebuilt and refurbed. and because it's waited so long, it got out of sync with the leasing cycle, and it's now seems unfair to make them go back to tender. Is that a fair approximation?
Thank you, and through the chair, that's correct with regard to the request being sought to exempt from the EOI process and enter back into negotiations with the archery club for a further term.
I don't oppose it, Lord Mayor. I'm just asking. So yes. We're basically saying because we let the lease run out and because there's been no renewal, we're going to waive the EOI process and regard it as vacant. As
I understand it, they have some money now, which makes it a different kettle of fish because they sought funding to rebuild. Is that, did I misunderstand
that? In part, through the chair, the funding to allow a minor upgrade to the building is a consideration, but also this was both a venue and an entity which we needed to revisit the leasing agreement, and they've come to term. There was a slight delay under the capital improvement agreement to looking at that lease now that they are ready to, or now that they are progressing the improvement to the building. The proposal from administration for consideration is to waive the EOI process and enter into direct lease agreement with them.
Thank you. Understood. That's all good. They're a good tenant.
So,
that's great.
I've lost the plot now. Who moved? DLM moved, and it was seconded by Councillor Elliott. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. Move on to item 12. Mr. Sedgman has a conflict of interest and a general conflict, and will leave the room. Could I ask Mr. Spartalis to join us? Could I ask Deputy Lord Mayor to move the motion as recommended, seconded by Councillor Siebentritt? Any discussion? Not. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. Could we ask Mr. Sedgman to return? And when he does, I apologise to Councillor Giles. Would you mind moving recommendation 1 and 3 of item 13 again from your committee? So that's the Adelaide Parklands community buildings and the 3 major event licences.
Lord Mayor, I'd like to pull out part 1 separately.
We'll take them separately. Councillor Giles, are you happy to move them?
Yes, Lord Mayor. I don't think I need to speak. I'll just move them formally.
Moved and seconded by Councillor Siebentritt. We'll take them in parts. You want to speak? Yes,
I'll just quickly just speak, and I'll keep it brief because you've heard me rattling on at committee and partly earlier on with the previous item. Just to say that my concern around this item is the potential that, admittedly over years, indeed over decades, it will result in an almost doubling in footprint building size, in my opinion that is, across the length of the parklands. And so for that reason and that reason alone, although I do admire the work that's gone into it, but for that reason alone I cannot vote in support of this.
Thank you. I understand that. We'll take it in parts. Recommendation 1, the parklands buildings. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Part 3, which is the 3 major events. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, members. Part 14, it's the recommendations of the Reconciliation Committee, and it's approving the stretch wrap, which has been edited. Councillor Elliott moved, Councillor Giles seconded. Any debate? It's a lot of work and a lot of effort. Councillor Giles.
Yeah, I would just like to reinforce the work and effort and the process that that the staff of Adelaide City Council, the Reconciliation Committee went through in partnership with Reconciliation South SA in order to come up with probably one of the most one of the most committed reconciliation plans in the state. I think we've always been leaders in relation to reconciliation, This is it our second stretch plan? I think it's our second stretch plan, which means that we're really stretching now, which is great. And this, at the Reconciliation Committee meeting last week, the committee endorsed the plan and congratulated those who were involved in the process, and particularly noted that there is some really significant focus in this plan that embeds reconciliation right through the organisation, makes it the business of every area, not just a separate little area called, you know, Aboriginal issues or reconciliation in the council, but every part of council is connected to this plan, and there are budget allocations to the plan as well, which makes it a real thing, not something that is just written and sits on a shelf. So I'd particularly like to congratulate Talisha for her work, and also for the committee for their commitment they've shown and their involvement in reconciliation for us as a council.
So thank you. It is great work. So do you want to speak, Councillor? All those in favour? All those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, members. We're going to move on to 15.1, which is a representation on a series of external bodies. I propose to take part 1 first, which is the foundational decision, and then take nominations for each position. So moved, Deputy Lord Mayor, seconded by Councillor Martin. That's part 1. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. So that gives us the... Can we take that again? All those in favour? All those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, members. Could I ask if we have any nominations for the Adelaide Airport Consultative Committee? Deputy Lord Mayor.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Martin.
Councillor Martin, are you happy to take that on? It's a very... I'll see if Councillor Lee wants to remain proxy. Yes. You would like to remain as proxy? I think you have...
I'd like to rescind my nomination and nominate Councillor Elliott as a member for that committee.
Okay.
I graciously
I don't think we can actually rescind it. We might have to vote. The only thing that can happen is Councillor Martin could withdraw. Oh, you didn't accept? Okay. Not accepted.
In which case I'll confirm that I accept the nomination.
And Councillor Lee is the deputy.
Position.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next one. Oh yes, we should vote. All those in favour? All those against? Thank you. There's no remuneration. You can vote. It was moved by Deputy Lord Mayor and seconded by Councillor Martin. The Adelaide Botanic High, I think that's Councillor Lee, isn't it? Are you still happy to retain that? Thank you. So, unless there are any other nominations, could we move part 3, which is Councillor Lee for the Adelaide Botanic High? All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you. The City of Music, Councillor Giles, you wish to continue? Unless there are any other nominations, all those... moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Elliott. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. We would like to have someone from Adelaide High School. Is there any taker for that? It's quite important because they're in the parklands and there's often there are some issues. Councillor
I'd like to nominate Councillor Davis.
Councillor... No, Councillor Davis isn't here, so he can't accept it. It's Councillor Noon's electorate ward. You interested?
No, sorry. I'll nominate Councillor Siebentrit.
I think Councillor Siebentrit may have a conflict. He has a conflict and therefore would be happier not to do it. If in the absence of a nomination, then we'll have to ask someone from the administration to take on the role.
Lord Mayor, I'm happy to step into the fray and nominate myself for this one and spare the administration.
I think we'll move it quickly before you change your mind. All those in favour? So it's moved by the Deputy Lord Mayor, seconded by Councillor Martin. All those in favour? Those against? Thank you for taking that on. And Councillor Noon, business events, still remaining, moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Deputy Lord
And I'd like to nominate Councillor Lee as a proxy.
Councillor
Lee as a proxy.
Councillor Lee again. Are you happy to take it on, Councillor Lee? So we'll move Councillor Noon as the member, Councillor Lee as a proxy. That's moved by Deputy Lord Mayor, seconded by Councillor Martin. All those in favour? And against, that's carried. Thank you, members. And Councillor Elliott, you are still the Regimental Council representative? Are you still happy?
It is a shame it's not an awards night, Lord Mayor. I'd be winning. I'm happy to nominate again for the remainder of this term.
That's very generous. Thank you. Now, Councillor Martin moved. Deputy Lord Mayor seconded. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. I've been told that Councillor Lee didn't vote, so we have to do it again. Number 7. All those in favour? All those against? Thank you, councillors. That's carried. So now, yes, the next appointment. Do I have a nomination? Councillor Elliott?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Noon.
Councillor Noon, yes. Any others? Councillor Giles, were you interested as well? Oh. No other nominations? Okay, that's we have to move a motion. Moved by. Thank you. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. My report. This is our last council meeting of the year. We've had a successful year passing the budget with a record level of spending on our infrastructure, and we've continued to lift canopy cover and focus on our post-COVID budget repair. I've been involved in a whole range of extraordinary events, 37 civic receptions this year held at the Town Hall. We've sworn in 198 new citizens across 4 ceremonies from 40 different countries. We've attended or hosted between us 5 round tables on homelessness, housing, city culture, live music and nightlife. One of the outcomes of the nightlife roundtable was a discussion about the cost of insurance, and as a follow-up this week I met with the Insurance Council of Australia to talk about measures that can be put in place to support live music and nightlife. Of all our meetings, we have debated quite and negotiated at great length, but cast votes in a way that I think has benefited the city. This week's civic reception, which was attended by several councillors, was the celebration of the 140th anniversary of the St Vincent de Paul Society. I was interested to learn that there is some history about this group. Vinnies have a relationship with the Town Hall chamber. The coronation window behind me depicts the rise of King William VII. It was produced by Edward Francis Troy in Gawler Place stained glass studio in 1897 for Muller Simpson as a gift to the Lord Mayor Lewis Cohen. Previously, he'd set up with a group of Catholics the St Vincent de Paul Society, and he's renowned and revered as one of the founding fathers of Vinnies. Today there are 2,500 members, 95 staff, and the people who came from across the state to celebrate the work of their group. We do know that we've worked hard in the year, but we should not underestimate the people who've done the real work. They're, of course, our staff. They work closely with the community. They work under sometimes very difficult circumstances and make our city good to live in, so that, like you, I would extend my gratitude to all of the staff, both within the Town Hall, the Colonel Light building, and also out in the field. They work extraordinarily hard. The other group that have been involved in supporting our city are the tourist guides, and they held their AGM, including many volunteers here last week. I wish finally in my report to wish you a safe and happy Christmas, a happy New Year. I look forward to seeing you in 2025. Someone move receipt of the report. Deputy Lord Mayor moved, seconded by Councillor Siebentritt. All those in favour? All those against? We're still in quorum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. Sorry? Just. Item 18, Councillor Siebentritt's motion. Council members' reports, I'm sorry. Deputy Lord Mayor, did you wish to... Any reports? Councillor Noon?
Yeah, I just want to say that yesterday the Lord Mayor, Councillor Giles and myself attended a very important forum, which was the culture, the life of our city, which says it all. This was a fabulous forum that enabled a whole diverse group of people to come together to discuss culture, what it actually really means to everybody. I thought that one of the presenters who said culture is us. It's about everything, what we do. And I think that what happened yesterday and all the information that we will collate will inform our policy. And I just want to congratulate Ilya and his team for organising this and facilitating such a wonderful event that has been so important to us. And you know, a couple of us attended, so that's great.
Thank you, Councillor Noon. Any other reports from council members? No? In that case, can I ask someone to move receipt of the report? Moved Councillor Giles, seconded by Councillor Siebentritt. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Councillor Siebentritt, your motion on notice. Sorry. You're moving. You're seconding it. Thank you. Councillor Siebentritt.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I have sent through an amendment to this motion as well. Thank you to the administration. Lord Mayor, I think this is relatively uncontentious, although the race itself still remains contentious amongst our community. This is simply a matter of improving the communications with residents who live in the city, I think leading into, during and then after the Velo Adelaide 500. I think myself and a number of councillors have received various pieces of feedback which suggest that communications can be further improved. I do note the administration's comments, thank you, around the communications that already do exist. I think the feedback, though, is that it can be much greater than that as well. The other item of note, it was interesting, I had the good fortune to attend a SECRA, South East Community Residents Association meeting recently, and they just really welcome an opportunity, as I'm sure other resident groups and other residents would, to be able to speak with organisers and have a debrief after each event to see whether there are further rooms for improvement in terms of delivery, impact on residents and communication. So again, this is a relatively straightforward motion, really seeking the administration right to the South Australian Motorsport Board, requesting further improvements in communications and including holding a meeting with the residents after each event.
Move the alternative, requesting an event. So we're asking for further improvements to communications with residents, including holding an event. We have no power, but we just ask them politely.
We are asking them politely to hold an event. They've been invited to attend events. I think there's question marks as to how well attended those events are. But it's really a request to meet face to face, Lord Mayor.
I've just grasped it. Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you, and I must admit, Councillor Siebentritt is much more diplomatic than I, but we've both fielded a lot of questions and complaints from residents over the last 4 to 6 weeks. I know this council has very little power, and I just want to clarify, supporting this motion does not mean you oppose or support the actual event. I want to echo what the council said. This is simply about wanting to improve communication for residents. And while we do not have power to do so, as the Lord Mayor said, we can ask nicely, and we should ask nicely, and we should keep on asking, because we are there to represent our residents. And I personally, I acknowledge that the Motorsports Board doesn't seem to be interested in listening to residents, in listening to council, but we have to keep on trying nonetheless. I was disappointed to hear that they, despite invitation, they did not attend the SECRA AGM, and there has been concerns around communications around additional events and additional timings around events, in particularly the 10 o'clock finish of the latest, what's it called, the mud racing dirt track thing, which was very, very loud and very, very late. So look, it's well known, wide and all throughout the electorate that I oppose this event as a whole, but this is not about opposing the event. This is about fighting for better communication, and so therefore I'm more than happy to support the councillor in this motion. I commend him for putting it forward. Thank you, Mark.
Councillor Noon.
Of course, I think this is a bit of a no-brainer because we should always review communications and always strive for better communication. I've had many discussions with the East End group about this race and many other events that are held over in that area. But I would actually like to add something. This is not just about residents, this is about businesses in the area. So I'd actually like to add residents living in the city and businesses, or something that reflects businesses in there as well, because there's a lot of businesses around that area, especially East End, that are impacted by this.
So have you got a seconder? I'm just a little confused because technically they should be nice to the residents over the other side as well. Maybe I'm just being too nice to people in Rose Park, but I think their lives are disrupted as well.
We take it as a variation, I think. It doesn't need a
I'm happy to take it as a variation if that's appropriate, Lord Mayor.
You're just moving that? Variation, it's been incorporated into the original motion. Shall we vote on that? All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. Shall we move on to the next item? Are there any motions without notice?
Yes. I had a motion that I submitted regarding removing the 30km/h speed zone and 40km/h speed zone from discussion. I put that through the CEO and I said, could you place it on the next agenda, and it hasn't been put on this agenda. I was wondering if I might be able to move it tonight.
I think it's not a matter of urgency. That it is not a matter of urgency?
No, I would second that it is a matter of urgency, and I absolutely agree with Councillor Davis. I wasn't there for that particular discussion in committee, but I think it's ridiculous to have a blanket ban across the city.
Thank you.
Because I do... yeah.
At the next meeting. There's no urgent decision. We're not making a decision. We're not voting on the matter. And if anybody wants to move dissent from the chair, they're welcome to do it. If not, we'll move on. So questions on notice, as on the table. Questions without notice? No. Could I move the exclusion of the public now? We have 3 items which we need to exclude 4. So could I just warn those in the gallery that we're going to move the exclusion. So can I move to exclude for item 23? That's moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Noon. Thank you. All those in favour? All those against? Councillor Siebentritt, did you vote? Yes. Good. Just checking. To exclude for 24.1, moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Noon. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you. And to exclude for item 24.2, moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Giles. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. We're now clearing the gallery for these items.